Hey guys, welcome to the Cyberspace VR. Today we're going to be talking about quite the hot topic.
Yeah, what is the best VR 2021? We've kind of talked about it, or going into 2021, right? We've talked about it in a couple of videos. We've compared the Quest 2 to the HP Reverb. We've compared the Quest 2 to the Valve Index. They were quite the battle, both of those videos. So we decided that it's just about time to compare the Valve Index to the HP Reverb G2. These are two of the best PC VR headsets going into 2021. Which one's better? Which one should you buy?
Right.
We're going to cover it all right now, spec by spec, experience by experience with what we do have, and see what happens.
Yep. A lot of people, they just can't stand the Quest, and there's a lot of issues with it. So this is the biggest. These are the two that they're deciding between, especially going into next year. So let's jump into it. What do you want to start with?
Oh man, what should we start with, chat? What should we start with, comments? If we were streaming, I would love to ask you guys, but let's just go with resolution.
Okay,
let's compare the resolution.
Sure.
So as he's looking at it, I'll just give you a basic idea of how we're gonna do this. So we're gonna compare them spec by spec, and if one is better, we're gonna give them a point, or maybe a half a point if it's a category that's just not as important. And by the end, we should have a number for each, and whichever one's better is going to be the best one in terms of specs going into 2021.
Right. This is our opinion, right? This is like what we value is going to be different. So you guys can keep your own tally for your own points.
If you think field of view is more important and deserves 2 points, if that's the most important aspect to you, give it 2 points on your end, and then you can determine which one's the best for you to buy.
Maybe price is doubly as important for you. Maybe look is doubly as important for you. Maybe the controllers, but we'll get into it.
Yeah.
So.
All right, let's start off.
Okay, so to start off, screen resolution right off the bat. So the Valve Index came out, and it's 1440 by 1600 per eye. So that's pretty good. That was really...
At the time it came out, too. It was phenomenal.
That was great. The HP Reverb G2 is 2160 by 2160 per eye.
So way better.
Way better.
That's huge. For those of you who don't understand, that's incredibly better.
Yep.
By a long shot.
It's great. Gets me excited for VR that the resolution just keeps getting better and better every year, and that was expected. But.
Yeah, sure. Some might argue like, oh, but the Index is an older headset, and yeah, that's true, but it's all that they've got on the market right now. Like that's what we're going to use to compare. And when they come out with another headset in 2021, we'll compare it to the G2 and see which one's better then in these aspects. But
yeah. Okay.
All right, so that's 1 point to the G2 so far for screen resolution.
Awesome. So the next thing is refresh rate. Refresh rate is really important in VR. That's like, if you have the machine to use it, it can really make things look buttery smooth. So the Valve Index comes in at 144 hertz, which is absurd.
It's really absurd. It mainly depends on your computer, though. So if your computer isn't the best, it's not going to be able to utilize that 144. It might just be down to the industry standard of 90.
Right. So, like, let's say you have you built a computer with a decent CPU and like a 1660 in it. You're not going to be able to utilize the 144 hertz. Sorry.
True.
But 144 hertz. So that's a point to the index. So
what is the G2? 90, right?
90 hertz.
Okay, G2's at 90, so it's a pretty big gap there.
Right, but that's standard. 90 hertz is industry standard.
It's not bad.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's tied right now. So HP Reverb got the point for screen resolution, which is really important to me. And then Valve Index got the hertz.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about? Let's talk about weight. I think weight's important, and I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, it doesn't actually transfer to the comfort," but I think weight is so important with headsets. So the Valve Index comes in at 809 grams.
Okay, that's heavier than a lot of the headsets.
Right, it's pretty stinking heavy. And then the HP Reverb comes in at 550 grams.
Big difference.
Huge difference.
Big gap, actually.
That's a little bit more than half.
Okay.
Right, so like it's. So I think that's significant enough to warrant a point.
You think it's a point or half a point? Do you think weight, like you think,
for
our viewers,
half a point.
Half a point to the G2 for being less. Because I think a lot of you are going to be like, a pound or half a pound really isn't going to change if I'm going to buy one. But maybe it does to some of you, so
yeah,
we'll give it half a point to the G2.
Half a point to the G2, so what are we at? It's
1.5 to the G2 to the 1 of the Valve Index.
Okay. talk about tracking.
Okay.
This is an interesting one. Okay. So the HP Reverb G2 is a Windows mixed reality headset. It's not like based in Steam or anything, and people have said that the tracking on those headsets is just okay. But it's inside-out tracking, so you don't require any sort of lighthouse or base stations or tracking cameras or anything like that, which I love. I think that is really extremely high priority for me. While the Valve Index uses lighthouses, but they say it's the best tracking on the market. People that I've talked to haven't really noticed a huge difference, but if you want really precise tracking, then that's going to be the way to do it.
And I don't know if you've played VR enough to have bad tracking or just have issues with tracking. It is extremely tedious. It's very frustrating. Yep. We had some issues every now and again with our base stations on our Vive that we had last year, and it just gets tedious. So I've really liked the direction of, personally, of not having to deal with base stations, because there's always, they can just be tedious. Getting them set up right, having to set them up in general and take them down typically is annoying. But hey, if it's going to give you the best tracking experience on the market, there you go. So this is how I personally would rate this one. I would say, hey, we give a point to the HP Reverb for having just tracking in the headset. Don't have to worry about setting up, taking down, or base stations at all. That's cool. But then again, I would say give a point to the Valve Index because it's got sensors, but it's the best tracking on the market. So it's even to me.
I think it's a give and a take. You decide. We'll leave this up to our viewers, right? You decide what you'd prefer. Would you rather are you going to have a dedicated VR space? Then the Valve Index tracking is going to be better. Do you not have a dedicated VR space? Then absolutely you should avoid that as much as possible, because I can tell you how much of a nightmare it is having to set up lighthouses every single time you want to play VR. Yeah. I love playing video games. I don't have a lot of time. I want every minute of my free time to be dedicated to actually playing the game rather than setting up stupid lighthouses.
Yeah. So we'll leave it there. We'll keep our point system where it is right now. So 1.5 is still going to the G2, and then the 1 is going to the Valve Index.
Yep.
You give a point right here for you on what you think is better.
Yep. Because this is
we
really
think it's even.
Yeah, it's really up to your situation.
Okay.
Okay. Let's talk about controllers.
Okay. All right.
Controllers for the Valve Index. They have the full hand tracking support. They're rechargeable. They have comfortable, easy to use wrist straps, but you can so it tracks each individual finger on the remote, so you can flip people off and stuff in VR, because that's important to some people.
I guess it is. Yeah. I suppose so. But I mean, you got to give that credit because it is really revolutionary.
Yep.
Like, I don't think the G2 does that, does it?
Nope.
No. And I mean, they're saying it seems that the Deca gear, which may or may not come out next year, might have something similar.
Yep.
Other than that, though, like these controllers are top of the market.
Yep.
So.
The only thing really comparable is like the hand tracking on the Quest 2, but that's only usable like basically in the menus, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So, and like Amazon Prime Video, that's it, right? Like you have like 2 apps. So that's really only the Valve Index has that feature for now. So that I'd say that's really awesome. The G2, the controllers are, for lack of a better term, they're nothing special.
They're probably fine, but
they work great.
They don't seem to be revolutionaries.
Yep.
Probably what you mean. Right.
Yeah, so they're really simple. Take 2 AA's.
Yeah. So
your standard stuff.
Let's give it to the Valve then, right?
Yep, I think we give it to the Valve.
Okay, so that puts the Valve at 2 and the G2 at 1.5.
Okay.
For our standards.
Right. The field of view on the HP Reverb, they haven't been super clear about, so I think we just leave that. We leave that off the table for now.
Yeah. So a lot of people in our comments have commented on our videos because we've done a whole series about the Quest 2 versus the Rift S versus this versus that, and very commonly we get comments of people saying like, "Hey, you didn't talk about field of view." And that's a good point. It's something that we do want to focus on more, but with a lot of these headsets coming out, like the Quest 2 and the Reverb, they haven't been very clear on what it is going to be exactly, so it's hard to compare, and it's not very fair to compare it to like something that's already been on the market for over a year that has a really, really good field of view to something that just hasn't really been established. So,
but here's the thing though, with field of view, right? So the bigger field of view you have, the more spread out your pixels are. Okay. So let's say that the Valve Index has a better field of view than the HP Reverb, but it has a lower resolution screen. So that effect of seeing those pixels is going to be even worse the bigger that field of view gets, because you're spreading your tiny little screens out further.
That's a good point.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So instead of seeing that high density pixels right where your eyes are going to be looking 99% of the time, you're going to have pixels out here that you can barely see most of the time, and you're sacrificing something. So that is very important for games like Pavlov or Onward or whatever, that you're going to be, it's a first-person shooter, you have to worry about what's in your peripheral vision, but for most things, like, gaming, like we do most of the time.
Beat Saber, for example.
Beat Saber
does not matter with that.
does not matter. So that's another thing. If you really prioritize peripheral vision, Valve Index might be your pick, but remember, you're going to have a crummier screen. I had a friend who bought the Quest 2. He already had a Valve Index. He just wanted a Quest 2, and he was actually really...
Just quote him. Just say what he said.
Okay, I'll say what he said. Basically, let me just pull up exactly what he said.
So this is someone like who owns both headsets, has had the Valve for a long time, and has been playing it like a lot on the Quest recently.
Yep. So he said, I got the Oculus Quest 2, and it's way better than the Valve Index. Just right there. And I said, dang, I love my Quest 2 as well. The tiny headset kicks trash. And he said, yeah, I think it's clearer than my Valve Index.
So that's somebody who probably hasn't even looked at the specs, but it can just say first-handedly, like, resolution's a big deal.
I know for a fact that he hasn't looked at the specs, right? Like, the reason being is because he asked me, he's like, what should I buy? And I said, well, if you want PC VR experience, this was a while back, I said, you buy the Valve Index. It's the best on the market, right? And so he did. And then he bought the Quest 2 because he heard about it, and it's kind of cool. And so he bought it. And he's like, what the heck?
He sees advantages there.
Right.
So, yeah. Tying that back to the G2, like there's just going to be advantages for having that better resolution, right? And like we talked about earlier, but
okay. Did we talk about price already?
We have not talked about price yet.
Okay,
probably a good time.
Yeah. So the prices on these headsets is very different. Well, not very, but $400 is a big difference to me. So
to most people, I think, but maybe not to you. So keep that in mind.
Yep. HP Reverb, $600. Pretty awesome.
Yep.
Valve Index is $1,000 if you don't have any of the controllers or base stations. So
$400.
You could buy a headset for that.
You could buy another headset, yeah.
Yeah, you could buy.
I don't know why you would. But.
Yeah, you could say, okay, I want HP Reverb for when I'm at home playing games, and I want a Quest 2 for watching movies and going on trips or whatever.
Yeah. So whatever. So I guess it's very simple. The G2 gets the point here for price to value ratio, right? So that puts it at 2.5. The Valve is at 2. But it's another one of those things where does the price really matter to you? Like, are you rich? If you're rich, who cares about the price? Honestly, if you're not rich, this is probably something that you might want to weigh with 2 points instead.
Right. We're thinking with our wallet, right? Like, personally, I already have a headset and stuff, so that it's kind of hard. But if I was looking to get into VR, and I looked at like what headset has like the future of VR in mind, I don't know, $600. That's pretty much the going rate, for a good PC VR experience. You're not going to find something cheaper than that, really. I mean, the Rift S was kind of like the cheapest end, but now this is like the flagship. It's kind of ahead of most things. There you go, $600.
Yeah. Are there any other specs that you think we should talk about that can give value to the viewers?
I mean, I like the look of the HP Reverb more than the Valve Index.
I like the crispness of the Valve Index. Like,
you like the glossy?
It just looks like a freaking fancy headset.
There's the upgradability in the front of the Valve Index. I'm not sure how people are using that. There's a lot of different ways that people can use it. So there's that.
That almost like to me, versatility that headsets have is very valuable.
Yep.
So like having that option, I don't know if I would use it. I might not. You might not. If you do, that might be worth putting a half point on there or a full point or something on your list, on your tally mark. Because like being able to customize your headset the way you want to, put the add-ons that you want to on there is really valuable. So
for sure.
Anyways, that's pretty much our analysis. It's very, very even. It just depends on what you value as a VR consumer. Do you value resolution? If you want the best resolution on the market, very easy. Go with the go with the Reverb. If you really care about like refresh rate, things like that, and you have the technology to back it up, it's the Valve Index. If you're really caring about the price and your wallet's a little bit tighter right now, Reverb, go with the Reverb. But it's just one of those things where it's very close. Both are phenomenal headsets and are great options going into 2021.
If I were to buy a headset today that was PC VR based, so not a Quest 2, throw that away, it would be the HP Reverb.
Me too.
That is the decision I would make. So that's what we tell people, right? Like if people are like, hey, what VR headset should I get? I say I would wait and get the HP Reverb G2 when it comes out next month. And that's just what I would do.
But let's say Valve comes out with a Valve Index 2 in 6 months.
Yeah.
You better bet that thing is going to be top of the line.
What I would need to see for that to really matter is the controllers are great in my mind. They could stay the same as far as I'm concerned. But the headset needs to be either lighter or something different. I don't like the fact neither of these headsets have like the Halo band. Mm-hmm. I love the Halo band on any headset. I'd love to see that with the Valve Index. That's one thing I'd love to see. Next thing, I need to see a huge bump in screen resolution. Huge bump. They can keep their current field of view, but they really need to ramp that up.
Then I would say, just to add on to your list, some innovation.
Yep.
They were really good at that when they released this one. They need to be good at that in the next one.
Yeah, one more step forward.
The facial recognition, the hip recognition that we're seeing with the Deca, things like that.
Body tracking. Yep. And lastly, but definitely not least, I'd say almost the most important thing that they really need to just please Valve, get rid of the lighthouses. I don't want them anymore. I don't.
They're just tedious.
Yep. They're tedious. It's exhausting. They look stupid on a wall. Get rid of them. Do inside-out tracking. I know they're chomping at the bit because they want people in their environment, or do some sort of like thing where you can choose to add them if you want even better tracking, but it can have inside-out. I don't care. Get rid of them. I don't want them.
Yeah, fair enough. But what do you guys think? What would you like to see in the Valve Index 2? And what do you think about our analysis? What points do you value the most?
Yep.
Let us know in the comments. And of course, be sure to subscribe. We are gaining some great traction on YouTube, and it is super fun for us. It gives us so much motivation and keeps us on top of the market and releasing videos that apply to you and help you and give value to you as we're going into this VR industry and things. So.
Yep. Anyway, that's our review. Love to hear from you, and we'll see you next time.